What is up, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Tuffy Talk here, and I'm with Michael and Greg as we are wrapping up part 2 of our 2024 ACC football preview, guys. And football season is quickly coming, man. I think it's right less than a month, or actually right over a month. I think it's all 36 days when we're recording this, something like that, from ACC football play. The first game of the ACC is going to be Georgia Tech, Florida State, and that's where we left off. And I kind of want to touch on that a little bit going into this episode. So carrying over from the last episode, guys, that is the game in Ireland. It's one of the first games of the season, if that's not the first game of the season.
I think it is the first game.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts of the matchup? I'm going to start with you, Michael, because you had some interesting comments about that game.
Yeah, I mean, being in Ireland, it's not like obviously, it's not like a normal game, and the first week of the season, it's always teams really don't know their identities yet, so it's just like anything could happen. If this game's played, week 7, even if it's in Atlanta, I'm like, okay, Florida State should take care of Georgia Tech, no problem. But it's like, I don't know. We don't know what DJU is going to look like as a quarterback for Florida State. He didn't look great last time he was in the ACC. I wouldn't be shocked to see Georgia Tech win that, but that wouldn't be a great look for the league, as we talked about. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you got Florida State gets DJ Uiagalelei. Georgia Tech's got Haynes King. Florida State came off an undefeated season where they got snubbed TFP, and if they were to lose that game, I just don't think it'd be a good look for the ACC at all. Yeah. I almost feel like if you're an ACC fan, you have to pull for Florida State there. But I also love a good underdog story. And after all of the whining and complaining Florida State's had about, this brand of rights, and so we went out pounding the table like a 5-year-old at dinner table, like let me down. Yeah, I don't almost really even care. I want Georgia Tech to beat them.
I was gonna say that. It's not great for the ACC, but Florida State fans, man.
It also helps with your own NC State standings to get to Charlotte, right? So
you got to be selfish. You have to be selfish.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, to your point, who was it that said that they're not a good league partner? And that phrase came up about the last week or so. So I don't think any fans on any of the other ACC teams would be upset with FSU taking the loss. I think, to your point, it's definitely not a good look in week 0 for the ACC number 1 contender to go lay an egg, even if it were, halfway around the world in 4 time zones. I think the only thing that might save people is they may not watch that game because it's in Ireland and the Olympics will be going on just a little bit closer over in Paris. But football fans are going to see that game. And if the ACC takes a loss, you can best bet Paul Feinbaum, all the other talking heeds will be like, yep, we told you. Same ACC. This is why they didn't make the playoff last year. You'll hear all that nonsense that has zero bearing on this season come to the surface.
But like you said, that helps State if Florida State loses. So I'll put up with it. I don't care.
So then let's just talk about matchups for the season, right? So we've got a whole bunch of great games this year. And let's start maybe easy ones, non-conference. We know that NC State's got Tennessee. We've talked about that one. That's going to be nationally recognized one of the better non-conference games.
Yep.
We did talk about the it's in conference. We did talk about the Georgia Tech, Florida State. Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying potential game day matchup. It's in that week. So if ESPN. Thankfully, there's an SEC school involved, so the ESPN may care because, it's definitely not the ACC that'll draw ESPN. We know that. And so, potential top 15 matchup with both teams. Under the lights in Charlotte. I looked at the tickets the other day. State's done really well selling out their tickets. About the only thing that's really left is some seats in the corners of States in the end zone and lower level. That's about all that's left. And then this up in the 300 level. So I think we're going to have a really good showing. And I think it's going to be fun. We're going to learn a lot about State week 2.
Yeah, it will be fun. I'm excited about it. So, like, for me, I'm just kind of glazing over, and if you guys want to, tell me to stop here, anywhere, I'm trying to glaze over some matchups that stand out to me.
Yeah, so I have some stuff right here. I think number one is the DJU Bowl, Clemson and Florida State.
Yeah, that one is going to be. That one was, what date is that? That's in October 5th. Yeah, October 5th. Yeah, that's at Clemson. That'll be
at Florida State.
At Florida State, excuse me, I'm reading this diagram wrong. Yeah, at Florida State. Yeah, that'll be pretty fun. The only way to make that better is if it was the other way around, right? If DJ had to go back and play at Clemson. So that is a big matchup to me. But, I'm just looking at non-conference real quick.
Real quick, that Florida State-Clemson game, someone's coming out with an L. So there's one loss on their resume already in the conference.
And it's true. And keep in mind, Florida State is going to be their first two games of the season are ACC games, right? Mm-hmm. They play Georgia Tech and Boston College. Easier opponents for them. But, that Clemson game is going to definitely be somebody's going to lose, and that's going to help the rest of the ACC out. At that point, and then would you rather Florida State or Clemson to win that game?
Do we play? When do we play Clemson? Before that or after that?
I think we
played Clemson before
like the end of September. I think it's the week before this game, right?
A week before,
two weeks.
So if we win, I think we would want Clemson to win. If we lose to Clemson, then we would want Florida State to win.
Yeah, right.
But
it bounced out.
And I know we want to kind of get through these kind of quickly, but then another big matchup: Florida State and Miami. Someone's taking an L there. Those are tough contenders.
End of October for those who are keeping track, and that's at Miami. That'll be an interesting matchup. That's gonna be a big game. Too.
That could be a potential college game day type environment.
Well, since we're sticking with the ACC schedule stuff, go ahead, Michael.
The more we're talking about this, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 2 6-2 teams in the ACC championship.
Yeah.
Maybe a 7-1. I don't think anyone's going undefeated.
Who's Clemson play? We said it's Clemson and Florida State. Clemson, again, they have to play in November. They've got to play Louisville at home, at Virginia Tech, at Pitt. Yeah. So,
and doesn't Clemson have Virginia Tech too?
Yeah. That was going to be one of my matchups, honestly, because everybody's talking about Kyron Drones and Virginia Tech and them being like a sleeper pick. I think someone had Drones as even like a sleeper MVP pick, which I don't think that's the case. Yeah. But Virginia Tech at Miami, we're talking about Miami being an ACC favorite. And if Virginia Tech can win that game, there's going to be some talk. Then you mentioned the Clemson game. Virginia Tech gets Clemson in Blacksburg. Yeah. That is going to be a hopping game. So,
you got Miami at Louisville. I mean, there's these.
All these teams are getting talked about. Miami, outside of Clemson and Florida State, Miami, Louisville, SMU, State, Virginia Tech. It's like, well, they're all playing each other, so they all can't win.
But the one that's not, State's only playing Clemson. Yeah, exactly. And SMU's not really playing anyone but Florida State. So maybe we were wrong in the first episode. Now we're getting a little bit deeper dive.
Right? I said State. I was like, so you guys, both of you don't have SMU going to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Just
don't know enough. I just don't know enough about them. That's my only problem.
They have the two very tough games right at the beginning. Like you said, Florida State at Louisville. Yeah. But the rest of their ACC schedule is easy. So they could be 6-2, but they won't be anywhere near the championship game because they lost their only two.
Right. They're going to lose to the wrong teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not all two losses are created equal.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious what other games are interesting to folks here. I'm trying to look through the schedule real quick. I don't really care about the UNC Duke football game. I don't think anybody really does. Honestly,
don't sleep on Stanford versus Cal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think honestly, when's the first game of the newcomers? So Cal plays Stanford late and SMU late, so it's not them. So let's look at Stanford plays SMU on October 18th.
So you got new versus new there.
Yeah, and SMU plays Stanford October 18th, and so that's your.
Wait, who plays October 18th?
Stanford versus SMU. Okay, that's an ACC matchup. That'll be kind of fun to watch if you're an ACC fan. Like, all right, you rookies, let's see what you got.
Here's my thing: are we going to get ACC after dark?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You think ACC teams will play like at 7 o'clock their time in Cal? 10 o'clock
East Coast?
I think they'll have to.
Game's at Stanford. The game's at Stanford.
I'm sure they'll do as much as they can to avoid it, but I think just with the amount of games that they put on TV,
or do you put a Stanford versus Cal game at 10 o'clock? Because that's not a big deal for them. Like I feel like that would be a game that would scream 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Or SMU.
I'm trying to look here too. I'm trying to look here if anybody else has got an interesting matchup. So I'm looking at even the games that even maybe I'd be terrible to watch, but like some of these bottom feeders.
It's still football making. It's still football.
Virginia at Wake Forest. Like, is that even interesting from who is I don't know, the worst team in ACC?
Dave Clawson on the hot seat.
He had to rethink his life after he played NC State last year.
He had to reevaluate his priorities. I know as much Dave Clawson loves Wake Forest. He missed an opportunity to jump ship at his stock being at its highest. I don't think, unless he finds another Sam Hartman, where they caught lightning in a bottle for those couple of years, I think he's going to be at Wake Forest for the long haul.
Yeah. So we'll look at some non-conference games here. So I think we've touched on some pretty good ACC matchups. I think another one that's going to be kind of interesting, we talked about it briefly, but I do think UNC at Minnesota is going to be an interesting non-conference game because I'm going to see – that's the first real test we're going to have of seeing UNC, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting when UNC loses. Yeah. It'll be interesting
that's what I mean. Like, is Mac Brown going to go 0-1 to start the season?
Is he going to complain about the schedule?
Is that a Thursday night game or a Friday night game? It's not a Saturday game, so he's got a little asterisk next to it.
It's Thursday. Same night we play
Thursday night game at Minnesota. It'll be in the summer or like in August, so it won't be.
It'll be nice
August?
there. It'll be nice.
They didn't put it at the end of the season.
They're not playing in hot humidity. They're not getting a cold weather game. Like they're getting off easy.
Yep.
No, I think that's definitely like okay. We're gonna find out how UNC hasn't announced a starting quarterback yet. Like, I don't know. I think that's a sneaky big game for UNC. Just with where they're all at with Mac.
That's why I think about it.
Yeah. It's a Power 4 team.
Yeah, it's so weird saying Power 4.
I know. I had to correct myself before I said
it's like you got the last minute. Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, that's weird.
UNC handled Minnesota last year with Drake May 31-13
at home.
I think Hampton is going to have to earn his keep, all his NIL money. They're going to lean so heavily on that guy. Yeah. His legs may fall off by like game 6 or 7. I think he's going to have like 1,000 carries, may not 1,000 yards, but 1,000 carries. Because if that quarterback situation doesn't play out the way they hope, they're going to be running the ball. But then you're just going to stack the box and say, okay, go beat me, whoever you are at quarterback.
And looking at their schedule again, like I said, I think that first game versus Minnesota is going to be big because after Minnesota, they play Charlotte, North Carolina Central, James Madison, Duke, Pitt. So, they could win 5 in a row right there. So if they win
or
and they're 6-0, they'll hype again. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We would never hear the end of it.
But then you got
that Minnesota game, I could see. Go ahead.
If you're 5-1, that's great, but it's like we haven't played anybody, and the only good team we played.
Oh, you mean like last year?
So it's like, pretty much
last year when they were like 5-1, or was it even 4? I could see a scenario where Carolina plays both quarterbacks a couple of series in that Minnesota game just to see who gets a feel for live game action.
Yeah. They may bring the water boy out, and he might play quarterback.
The water boy.
I think it's going to be Max Johnson. I just can't. He has SEC.
Why you come out of name for transfer portal? Well, then they brought that guy back. That's the weirdest thing about it. So it's like to me, I actually think it's gonna be Griswold because it's like, really, why would you do that if you had confidence in the first guy? I don't know.
He reversed Ernest Rost.
It's like, oh my gosh, we got to bring that guy. We can't do this.
Max Johnson, like, he wasn't terrible, and he was a starter in the SEC. Like, I don't see how he doesn't start.
That was a weird move to bring Griswold back.
I mean, he had some moments with LSU. I think it was like a Texas A&M game. I want to say, like, I remember watching it on CBS. Like, he had a game.
So,
oh yeah, it's true. He did play for both of them. So maybe I'm confused when he was playing for Texas A&M. That's true. 13.
But no, he did. I think it was the LSU because I think he was better at LSU in the couple games he started for them.
Yeah. So I got a couple more non-conference games. So Clemson plays Georgia. Huge game there.
That's a big one. Yep.
Big one. That'll be week 2, August 31st. Same weekend, Miami plays Florida at Florida. I guess we're calling it week 0 and then week 1. Okay.
Week 0.
There's some other games like Stanford at TCU. I mean, it's like but I mean it's like it's just a newcomer. Maybe see what they got there. Or SMU plays. SMU also plays TCU, but they play BYU. So that's kind of. But I think if we're going to consider non-conference, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's going to be wild just watching these teams. Like I would never probably purposely put on an SMU game unless that was like the only game that I could get on TV, right? Same with
Cal
Stanford
plays
and Cal.
at Auburn. I mean, early, so
yeah, but Auburn's not that good.
I know, but maybe Cal gets a win there, so I don't know. It'd be interesting. So I think two of the most random non-conference games. Okay, so here's my 2 randos. Boston College at Mizzou. That's an Eli Drinkwitz game. That'll be
that's a weird one.
Was that September 14th? And then Ole Miss at Wake Forest. Like
they're gonna get
Ole Miss is
stops.
coming to Wake Forest. Like that's just like what? I was like, that's a thing. So
they're gonna hang 100 on Wake Forest.
That was good scheduling by Wake because I bet you they scheduled them when they were a couple years ago when they were good, and I think they played at Ole Miss last year and got stomped.
Yeah. And then a couple more. Okay, let's say the Florida State at Notre Dame or whatever that game is. That'll be a big one.
That Florida Miami
I'm
game.
going to say the Notre Dame's. You said what?
The Florida Miami game. I think you mentioned that right off the top when you're talking about.
I did. I'm going to look at a couple more. Yeah,
that's big for those teams specifically because Florida was not great.
Napier's not doing good. He's on the hot seat. Yeah.
If they lose to Miami, they will want him out of there week 1. And then Miami, obviously, Billy Napier, the Florida coach.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I was watching some stuff on them. They said they may not even win 5 games this year.
They have the toughest schedule, some people say, in football. Like we talk about Georgia Tech.
Yep.
I think Florida's got the toughest.
Yeah.
But a couple more games. Florida State, Memphis, that may mean nothing, but that's like that's where I'm blanking on the coach's name for Florida State.
Mike Norvell.
Norvell. That's where he came from, right? He came from Memphis. So
we have that too, right?
State,
with Northern Illinois.
Right. Yep. And then there's another one in here that I saw that was interesting. Pitt, West Virginia, backyard brawl.
Yeah, that's always great.
So
that's awesome.
That'd be a great game.
Yeah, that was a good game last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Yeah. So going back to, we were kind of just running through those, and the banner that they had at ACC Media Days, ACC toughest non-conference schedule in the country. Are we buying that?
Yeah. To me, here's why I take that. You're marketing yourself. Your big banner is.
It's a big banner.
We everybody else we play is really tough. Like we can't play it's like you're bragging about other conferences being tougher than you. If that makes sense, right? I do not think it's a good look. It's everybody else we play is tougher than who we play ourselves.
It's like a good thing and a bad thing. Well,
you better go win.
I think part of the reason that Florida State got left out, or at least what the committee said, was because their perception of the ACC is not as good. They didn't play as tough as a schedule as Alabama. So
maybe they're right in that.
The ACC is trying to do by promoting that we're playing the toughest non-conference in the schedule, but
they're trying to lift themselves
up. Kind of admitting that the ACC is also not the strongest.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
It was interesting it's a little off topic, but not too far. I was watching some ACC Media Day coverage, and it's a guy from North Carolina, Josh Graham. Is that his name? Yeah. He was interviewing Mark Packer, and I thought it was a really good interview. Josh, and I'm not a big Josh Graham fan. He's fine, but he's got some wild takes. But his conversation with Mark Packer, who, if people don't know out there, he's kind of like the face of ACC Network. He's done a couple of shows, had a national media show for a while. The ACC doesn't have a Paul Feinbaum, right? And they, so because we don't have that kind of person. That's the reason you have to have a big banner, right? You don't have someone tooting your horn, carrying the water pail for the conference, because we know Jim Phillips hasn't done a very great job of it. So because of that, like, we need somebody to be out there on the national media stage, because Paul Feinbaum, whether you like him or not in his takes, and by gosh, Lane Kiffin tore him up like last week.
Did. I was about to say, do I bring it up now or not? Yeah. He couldn't do anything about it either. It was the funny part.
I need to go watch that. Like, I saw the tweet and I never watched the video.
Yeah. So anyway, bringing it back, I think that's what the ACC needs, right? That's the whole reason you have an ACC network. You don't show curling from 1982 on the midday on ACC network. Like, you want real, like, pertinent coverage. Yeah. Content. Thank you.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. And it's not just having that person. It's about ESPN being willing to put somebody like that on TV, because I think I saw an article around the same thing. That's why Josh Graham brought it up to Mark Packer, because I think 24/7 came out with an article talking about that the ACC needs that Feinbaum person, and that, when Florida State got left out, like, they had EJ Manuel, works for the ACC network. He was in Bristol that weekend of the selection show, and they didn't bring him on TV. It was all SEC and Big Ten guys, and he was a quarterback at Florida State. Like, you think you would want someone like that?
You're shooting yourself in the foot for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, but again, to your point, Michael, ESPN has to be willing to do it. You can't just put EJ Manuel. EJ Manuel can't be like, okay, I'm coming on now. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I think that goes kind of back to the point where the ACC is in Florida State and Clemson to a degree has accused the ESPN of sabotaging the league, right? But you have to rise. You have to find. You can't make excuses. You need to find
a way to, and it'll figure itself out. Right?
Find a way to rise above the noise. I mean,
that's what Florida State did last year. They were 13-0, and they didn't. That's why. That's the whole.
Yeah, and that was the ACC guy that was something like that, right? He said he wasn't just saying. Well,
that's the whole argument, though. Like, you can't just win, because that's what Florida State did last year, and they still got left out. So.
Well, and I think EJ Manuel coming back to EJ Manuel, it's not like the NFL. He said it's not like the NFL. You win, you're in, right? There's formulas it's a much easier when you have 32 teams as a whole instead of 100 plus, 150 teams, 160 teams. It's all about eye test, right? The eye test, and you can run all these metrics and do whatever, but at the end of the day, it's still very subjective.
Yeah. That is changing.
It's a beauty contest.
With the 12-team playoff. Winner of the ACC gets an automatic bid, so that could never. If Florida State goes 13-0 again and wins the ACC, they're in. It's at that now it is. But when it comes to those 12, 13, 14 teams that are on the playoff bubble, if you're looking at an ACC, you're probably going to be looking at ACC versus SEC versus Big Ten team there, and it's going to come into play, just not for a top 4 seed like it did last year.
So speaking of the CFP, give me your worst case and best case scenario of how many teams the ACC gets in. And I know it's,
best case, all 12.
All 12. Best case.
All the other conference championships will be canceled, and we are only taking ACC participants.
I think best case is 3 teams.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that the champ, the runner-up, and then maybe a team who was
tied for the ACC
10-2 and was really strong in the schedule, like say
lost the tiebreaker.
Florida State, Miami, and Clemson. I don't know, something like that. I could see that being a situation.
Where's NC State?
Well, I'm trying to be objective here. NC State is number 1, obviously, and then
your point. Like, I think it's the best case is 3. You have a team that's lost 2 very tough games. Your ideal scenario would be the conference champion winner, the runner up, and the third place person lost 2 games and it was to 1 and 2. Like that would be.
What happens if it's NC State, right? Let's say NC State loses to Tennessee and Clemson. They run the house everywhere else. They're 10 and 2. They make it to the championship game but lose. Are they in or out?
That's tough because
we'll talk about that on our team episode.
Does, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that on our team episode because you've lost you arguably lost your 3 toughest games because you have 3 losses
and you have 0 signature wins.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. So I think you're out. So that's just me.
Yeah.
But we'll kind of wrap this up in a second. But let's just talk about some key players in the ACC this year. So we have some new faces. I think probably most notably at the quarterback position, there's a bunch of new names. We talked about DG Uiagalelei. He's coming back from Clemson to Oregon State. Now he's at Florida State, which, by the way, personally, I thought was a classy move for him not to go to ACC Media Day.
Yeah,
that's just me because he just got there. He should be the face of the team, although they're probably paying him a pretty penny to be there. So, so there's that.
You go deal with that.
Cam Ward. Who is going to be the new quarterback at Miami, from Washington State. He's a big reason why a lot of people are picking Miami to be the favorite in the ACC this year. So there is that guy. Going to be a tough one. We do not have to play him nor Florida State this year. Until NC State, they got Grayson McCall, right? Grayson McCall. Duke has Malik Murphy is a name I can think of. We mentioned I don't think UNC has a QB battle for Max Johnson.
And also, I don't think Duke has officially said that Malik Murphy. It's
really
what's his name? Grayson Loftus, I believe, is the Loftus? Other. He's been at Duke and. Yeah, I don't think they've officially said Malik Murphy. I think a lot of people assume that because from Texas, but yeah.
That would be wild if he's not.
I think it's the most notable quarterback names. And then you got some names that that are returners. You got Clemson with Cade Klubnik. You have Virginia Tech with Kyron Drones, who's been a hot name a little bit. It's a sleeper. Yep. You said what again?
Haynes King at Georgia Tech.
Haynes King at Georgia Tech.
You do have a transfer at Pitt from Alabama, Holston. So you got a new face there.
Maybe he brings some. The transfer from Ohio State.
Kyle McCord.
He could be. Yeah. That's he wasn't bad at Ohio State. They just ran him out of town.
I know. Did you watch Hard Knocks?
No.
Oh. So they had Marvin Harrison Jr. in there for pre-workout. They're looking at tape, and McCord threw bad over or under him, and the offense. In fact, it was Al Groh's kid, Mike Groh. He played at Virginia. He's like, so what are you going back to tell the quarterback? He goes, nothing, And then Mike Groh's like, light him up, So he's not, It'll be interesting. He's got a lot of potential. Was where I'm going, but there's a reason he transferred out, right?
Yeah.
So, beyond that, I guess we talk about. I think we all probably agree Cam Ward is the biggest addition to any of these teams from a quarterback standpoint.
Game changer.
Yeah, he's the name.
But I think we have talked about. Is there any other players that you guys are aware of that would be big time pickups for other teams? I mean, NC State, we all know NC State's got a bunch of transfer guys they brought in, and Clemson has brought in 0. Maybe we talk about that. Do you think that's going to hurt Clemson this season?
Yeah. I think the dynasty is over. By the way,
you talked about them being a contender, right? They didn't bring anybody in.
It's tough.
I don't believe in Klubnik.
They hang their hat on their defense, and they go tell the offense,
they still
don't go screw up.
Level
I mean, they got Phil Maffa. He's a great running back, and they're going to lean heavily on him, but Klubnik has to take a step
last year, and we thought they were bad, didn't we? Were they 9-3? We thought they were bad.
Yeah, they ended up 9-3.
And then you had the whole Dabo buy that stock, right? Remember that speech? Like at the
he was right
at the end of the season. He was.
They were like 5-2 or 4-3 or whatever, and then they won. So
it's crazy though. Their worst season is 9-3 in states. We're celebrating 9-3. I mean. We're that narrative has been slowly changing over the years, but we got to find a way to get over the hump.
There's definitely Miami also has that running back transfer,
Fletcher,
from, I believe, from Oregon State, Damian Martinez. I think he's expected to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I'm just kind of looking up some quick names because honestly, I don't know a whole lot. I will say on this on collegefootballdogs.com, they had 5 most impactful AC transfer portal additions. Number 1 was Cam Ward. Number 2 was Grayson McCall. So that was a big addition for NC State, for sure.
The quarterback's always going to get that love, right? They're always going to rank high in these types of things because of the impact that they have on the team.
Yeah. They said number 3 was a defensive end, Marvin Jones, who has gone from Georgia to Florida State. So a DN for Florida State, 6'5", 250. He is a Florida State legacy, apparently. So there you go.
His dad was a beast.
Georgia Tech got an addition, the big-time addition, defensive lineman Jordan Vandenberg. But it's not spelled the same way as the other Jordan Vandenberg.
Did he find some eligibility?
Yeah. He's from Australia. He's 7'2". It's actually 3 letters, 3 words, Van, and then D-E-N, and then B-E-R-G. So it's Vandenberg. It's not even hyphenated. He's a South African guy, apparently. That's kind of
pretty
interesting.
close to Australia.
Yeah. And then the 5th guy they have on this list, most impactful, was a defensive tackle, Thor Griffith. That's a name.
What a name.
Transferred in from Harvard to Louisville. So Louisville gets a defensive tackle addition there.
A lot of good prospects come out of Louisville. Out of Harvard.
Yep. Yeah, he was an FCS All-American, transferred to Louisville. So good pickup for them. But I honestly don't know a whole lot of other transfers that I can think of.
Not a transfer, but at Syracuse, we were talking about Kyle McCord. He gets Arondé Gadsden back.
Yeah.
He tore his ACL, I think, last year.
That's a great point. I didn't think about that.
That's a big weapon for him.
Yeah, it's a good point. So those are some key players coming into the ACC this year that we're aware of. And I guess just to wrap it up, go ahead.
Sorry, I just thought of one more. The quarterback for Cal, I think, will be pretty good for them. I think his name's Chandler Rogers, or Chandler Rogers from North Texas. I remember seeing his name go in the transfer portal, and I think I looked at him because obviously at that point the state was looking for a QB as well. But I think he committed kind of quickly to Cal, and I think that may be a little under the radar transfer there at QB. I think he'll be pretty good.
Gotcha. So then I want to go just a kind of quick rapid fire to you guys. Then overrated team.
Hold on, real quick.
This season.
I know. I just want to close the loop on quarterbacks.
Quick.
No. We didn't talk about because Louisville is a contender. They brought a kid in from Texas Tech. And so Tyler Show.
Oh, Show? As a Show?
Tyler Show? Yeah, I'm not sure how to say it.
We played him a couple years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's Shuck.
That's a good point.
I think that's how you.
Oh, you're right. It is Shuck. You're right. It is Shuck. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we talked about that during the preview we did of them.
Yeah. Good call out, Greg. Good call out, Greg, and good correction there, Michael.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I think he was a highly rated. I think he was a highly rated guy, like a 5-star coming out of high school, but he's been injured.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't think Jack Plummer was that good anyways for last year for Louisville, but he got him to the ACC championship game. So I guess if he can do that, then yeah.
Well, yeah, and I guess I know we're done. There's a reason these guys are transferring, right? With the exception of Cam Ward, they're trying to go prove themselves. So they definitely have question marks. I don't think Cam Ward has a lot of question marks other than maybe some of his decision making. He tends to pull down the ball and run with it instead of throwing with it. So just kind of, I know these, Grayson's pretty experienced, but, he came in because of, shocker, he didn't get along with Tim Beck. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these quarterbacks fare out. And I yield my time back to you, Macon.
And now we're done.
Your last.
Okay. We like to have fun here on the show, and the moderator is just a placeholder. Everybody else runs the show. Yeah. But just real quick.
Hey, one more thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, my gosh, dude. I was about to say, seriously? All right. Overrated team. Just pick one. Who is that in the ACC this season?
We normally would say North Carolina, but they're not They're not that good.
Yeah, I think they're perfectly
I don't
rated.
think anybody's rating them high this season, so I don't think they're overrated.
No, and I know we throw shade at them, but they have been historically overrated the last couple of years.
And I think some of the shine from Mac has worn off after he's had 2 NFL QBs and haven't done anything. So, I think they're getting kind of a bit picked middle of the pack, which I think is right about right for
middle to lower.
But, yeah.
Let me ask you guys. Maybe
for me, it's Clemson. If you want my answer.
Say, yeah, is Clemson overrated?
They're being picked number 2. Like, I think, as much as I don't like to say it, I think Miami's going to be really good. Like, really good. Again, my only concern is the head coach, which is pretty significant.
That's a pretty big piece, but
and their defense. Like, I know they got guys, but now it's about finishing games. They lost a lot of close games last year, partly due probably to coaching. But if they can get that right, I think it's Miami way better than Clemson.
So go ahead, Michael.
It's tough because obviously you can go a bunch of different ways.
I'm thinking the top 5 teams, right? With Miami, Louisville, Clemson, Florida State, SMU, NC State, probably top 6.
Virginia Tech's kind of right there too at 6.
Yeah, I think Virginia Tech can be good. They have literally so many people returning from last year. It's almost the
so then maybe
it's crazy.
Would Virginia Tech be your underrated team?
No, I think they are based on the percentages to win the conference.
Based on
SMU's
our
overrated.
conversations, I think so. I think they'll lose. Florida State and Louisville start 0-2 in the ACC, and then just kind of fall apart.
I like it.
So we're going to say, so Greg, your overrated pick was Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, your overrated pick was SMU.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say my overrated pick is Clemson this year, I think, because they didn't bring in any transfers. They haven't been to the championship game in a little bit, and they're not really doing anything right now.
They're going to hang their hat on defense. That's really what they're going to do. That's dangerous.
Yep. So we got 2 Clemsons and SMU. Underrated pick. Who is an underrated pick this year?
Hold on, right here.
I'm kind of there too, man.
You could make a good argument for State, yeah.
He just said the second most impactful quarter team is player coming in AC is Grayson McCall.
Yeah.
They're kind of being picked fifth
or 6th. I think it's as low as 7th. I think it's low as 7th, right?
I've seen that too. But normally between 4 and 6 is somewhere where State's falling.
Yeah. I honestly think it's either NC State or Virginia Tech, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
I'm kind of along that lines as well to avoid being a total homer. I'll say Virginia Tech. I was thinking them.
Boo.
Hey, my wife's a Hokie, right?
I think it is.
Is that what they do?
I think it is probably between.
Do this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I kind of look like a Hokie with a.
Like some people do that.
What do they do? I'm sorry. What was it?
Some noise coming through or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it's.
I say, what's a Hokie? I say, I am. I'm like, that's so stupid.
Okay, we're getting out the rails. We got to wrap this thing up.
I know.
I'll say Virginia Tech.
Michael. Edit this part.
I'll say Virginia Tech. Their toughest games, I mean, they are tough. They're at Miami and Clemson, but if they can split, if they can go 1-1 in those games, the rest of their ACC schedule.
Clemson's at home, right? Easy. Miami's on the road.
Yep. Their non-conference is nothing. They got at Vandy, Marshall, at Old Dominion.
Hey, don't sleep on Old Dominion. They lost to them a couple years ago.
Yeah, but that was
never say never.
Worse.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, I think if they can. Yeah, sorry. I think if they can
so we're going to say
Miami,
overrated Clemson and SMU, and we're going to say underrated Virginia Tech and NC State. Honestly, at this point,
I think.
Yeah, I guess.
Who's your player of the year?
I think right now it probably is going to be Cam Ward unless somebody says something different.
I agree.
I don't know. His dual threat ability is probably going to be too dynamic.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a hot take. Mark that clip.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, I don't know. KC might. He's like. There's going to be too many weapons on NC State's team for it to be KC. But he might be first team wide receiver.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be first. He's first team preseason.
Yeah. So maybe that's a hot take. But we'll see what happens.
I think a safe pick is Cam Ward because I think, like you said, their offense is going to be really good. But
yeah, I feel like that's
Cam Ward get hurt week 1 against Georgia Tech and he can't play. That would be like awful that would be hilarious, honestly. But I hate that anybody get hurt. You get what I'm saying?
It would be very classic Miami.
Yeah, classic. So, but anyways, so the guys, that was our ACC 2024 preview. We'll have a whole lot more content about NC State specifically as we get closer to the season. But again, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. So maybe popping up on your screen.
Subscribe.
Definitely subscribe. It's going to be great to get you guys connected and have other friends in the NC State community built up so we can continue this conversation together. So
hit our Discord up too. We love talking.
Yeah, it's great.
Obviously, as you can tell by this episode, we love talking.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to y'all later. And as always, go Pack.
Let's go Pack.